So there are these some keywords that are already in there in the Python. So what it means is, for example, I create a variable a is equal to 3. So I'm taking a, but instead of a, I cannot use uh, any of these names. So just for example, if I say a is equal to 3, that is okay. But instead, if I choose a word from here, maybe I call in, right? In is equal to 3. You can already see, just like in English, there's a underline here. That means there is an error here. Okay. So if I tell the Python that print in, it will not print it. It will say at this step itself, it got rejected because I can't use this word, right? So it will give me an error. Okay. So these are some uh, reserved keywords that you can never use in Pythons to create a variable. So they are also case sensitive. What I mean is, for example, in is in small letters. Now, if I make the I capital, now if you see, it will work. So in is 3. So this is case sensitive. So these values are case sensitive. Now, after this, we talked about the type of operators, the arithmetic operators, comparison operators, assignment operators, and the logical operators. So in arithmetic operators, these are the ones that do the basic operations of addition, multiplication, subtraction. So there is this percentage sign that I told you that is called as modulo, right? Double asterisk means is, for example, if I write 10 raised to 10 double asterisk 3, that is 10 raised to power 3. So there are these arithmetic operators. Then there is this comparison operator. So double equal is that you are asking the computer if both the values on each side are they equal actually. So it the comparison operator always gives a result in Boolean. That is, either it says true or it says false, right? In arithmetic operators, you are able to combine and produce a new value, whereas in comparison operators, you get either true or false. Assignment operators is giving same result as arithmetic operators. You can kind of assign the values. Then is logical operators. So that is not and or. For example, you use the comparison operator and you came out with the value true. So you can use outside of it a not. That means not true. So your values will become false. So if you are having two conditions that both need to be true, in that case you can use and. So if you're having condition in which either of both the conditions can be true, so if either of them is true, then your program should go ahead, then you can use or, right? We have discussed all this and we did a practical example on it. Okay. So then we discussed what is input, right? So input is kind of something where you ask the user to input a value. So maybe you tell them a question and the computer Python asks the user. So in input, you need to just remember that whenever you are using input, the result is always a string, is always a string. So even if the user inputs a number, it will always be a string and you need to change it to produce a value. Now what it means is, for example, if I say a is equal to input and I tell the user enter anything, enter anything, right? And I give b a value of 5. Okay. So if I say print A plus B, right? So this A plus B will only happen if the user inputs a number, right? But also that number needs to be converted to an integer because here it will be inputted as a string. Now, what I mean is, now let us consider another example where I say C is equal to, but this will already give an error. Let me explain it here only. Uh, now, it says enter anything. Maybe I enter 4. Okay. But they both are not added this time because it says one of them is integer and one of them is a string, right? So you cannot kind of do this operation. So what if this time I put int? Now the value that will be coming is string and which will be converted into int, right? So you can always put int, float, or if you want, if it is a number somewhere, you can change it to string by putting str, right? So this is in interconversions. Okay. Now if I do the same thing, enter a number, maybe I enter 9. Now 9 plus 5, that is 14. It works this time. So it is very important to remember that an input operation will always give you a string. Either if it is a number or a text value, but it will always give you a string. So you need to convert that string into int. So similar to int, you can use also float, right? Then we talked about strings. In strings, you can do operations like, for example, I have a is equal to hello, b is equal to world. Now, if I say print a plus b, what will happen? I will get hello world, right? So you can add a string to string, and that is called as concatenation. Okay. So it is a journal English word. What it means is adding up to text. For example, uh, uh, there is this word home guard. That is a kind of army post, right? So what it is a combination of two words, home and guard. So basically it is a concatenation of home and guard. So in journal English we also talk about this, right? Then if you have a string, right? If you need to know the length of the string. So for example, this is hello, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words. The length of this string is 5. So we use in Python len of string, right? So for example, a is equal to a string, maybe rank. Okay. So I want to know the length of this string. I will just put a. Now the computer will, the length is 6. Okay. So after that, we talked about indexing. If you remember indexing, right? So if this is a word, now maybe let us take this word only. So in trying, indexing is something that we give positions to each alphabet here. Anything inside a string, it is given a position. So we start with 0. That is always started with 0, not 1. So T is at 0 index position. R is at 1 index position. Similarly, we go on. Now, if you remember, if I want to know some certain what is the value at a certain index position, right? So maybe I want to know what is at the third index position. So it is I. So 0, 1, 2, 3. That is the I. Then we talked about slicing. So slicing is all about uh, if you have a string and you want to cut it into some particular indexes. So maybe I want 1, 2. So this will 1 will be this one R, whereas 3. So there is this one thing in slicing that the last one is never included. First one is included, but the last one is not included. So the value 1 less than the last one is included. So it is 1 to 2 only. So that will be ry. Now, if I print it, it is ry. What if I change it to the, uh, what if I change it to maybe 7, right? So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is not 7 words long. Maybe what I use is length of the string itself. So the length is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it means until 1 to 5, right? So I will get ring. So we talked about the rules of slicing, if you remember. Then there is negative slicing if you start from backward, that is -1, -2, -3, right? So even in this case, whatever you add on the right side will not be included. One less than that will be included. So in here, -2 will be included. So -3 to -2, that is P and L, right? Then we talked about string functions. So if the string is ending with, if we are looking at this string and we want to know if this is ending with ER. So maybe A is trying, right? So I want to know if A is ending with. So whenever you choose a string after you put a dot, so if you type any alphabet, there are different functions that will show up. So if you go to depth of Python, you can just look what all these mean, right? So if I start from A, there is add. If I go to B, there is nothing. From C, there is capitalize, case, force, enter, count. So everything as a, these are a method. So this is a function that is kind of added to the uh, it is like inbuilt in Python and you can use it on the strings. So for our particular case, for example, I will give one of the example, that is I choose ends with, right? And this time I choose, is it ending with ng? So though the computer will reply with a true or false. So it says true. It is ending with ng. Okay. So similarly, there is capitalize. You just add, you just add here capitalize. Okay. Now if I run this, trying T has got bigger. So all these are there. Replace, you replace a old word with new one. Okay. Now, then there comes the conditional statement. That is if, elif, and else. So if you remember, this is to write somewhere a code where when you have multiple conditions, that for example, if you are thinking if you have less than 1 lakh rupees, then you should buy an Activa. But maybe if you have between 1 to 10 lakhs, then you should buy a car. Else you should uh, not buy, right? So you have these conditions that you can create in if, elif, and else. We already have written some codes in this one, if you remember. So the best thing is to practice it, right? Because with practice, it will become more easier for you to the write codes. Then there we talked about. So there are certain data types in Python. That is, for example, we talked about list, right? So in list, you can store some values. And in these values, it can be either a string, it can be a numerical, it can be a float, integer, it can be anything, right? You can store them together also. So it does not mean that a list is shown with the brackets, and it can store different elements of different types. So it is never a problem. Now, list is mutable. Mutable means that you can change the elements of list. Now, if you see this one and the next code is this. So what it does is for the list student at the 0th index, I'm changing Karan to Arjun. So when I will print it again, this will get permanently changed. Okay. But that is why it is called as mutable. It is changeable. So just like strings, in strings I had some methods, right? The inbuilt functions, we call them as methods. So similarly have some list methods, right? There is append. So this was the list 213. I want to add 4 to it. I will use list.append. If I want to sort them in ascending order, I will use list.sort. If I want them to sort in descending order, I will use reverse is equal to true. So if I want to reverse the list completely, then I will use list.reverse. Similarly, now what is insert? At index insert means, so for example, I want to add one element here. So 0th index is for 2, then I want to add the first index, and I will put index comma what I want to add and it will get added there. Right? Then came the dictionary. So if you remember, in a dictionary there is a key value pair. So there are two things. One is a key and another is a value. So to know all the keys, you use this key. Just a moment. Yeah. So to get all the keys, you use dot keys. To get all the values, you use dot values. To get all the pairs, the key value pairs, you use items. Similarly, to not get an error if the key does not exist, if you remember, we use dot get, then key. And if you want to update something, you use update. Then after dictionary, we talked about sets. So in set, the thing that you need to remember is a set is mutable, but its elements are not mutable. What it means is you can drop or add a new element, you can delete an element, but you cannot change an existing element just as the same way you did in list. You cannot do it in set, right? So there is add, remove, clear, and pop. Okay. There is union and intersection also. Now, today we will talk about for and while loop. So, what happens is, why do we call it a loop? What does a loop means? Now, if I have, uh, maybe I want to print the value, if I have a is equal to 5, right? I want to print 5 maybe 100 times. Okay. Or maybe I want to print it 1 lakh times. Will you do it manually? No, right? So if you remember in Spotify or in any music app, when you're listening to a song, there is something called as repeat. So there is a repeat button like this, something. So what it means is you're playing the song again on loop. So similarly in Python, what happens is I have this, there are two kind of loops. One is called a while loop and one is called a for loop. So first we will discuss while loop. Now, what it means is, for example, if I say that let A is equal to 1, okay? Now, I have initiated that the value of A is 1. And now I am performing something where I am saying to the computer that while A while A is less than 5. Okay. So what it means is until A is satisfying this condition. So I'm saying to the computer, I'm saying to Python, I am saying that A is equal to 1. I will define a condition more, but uh, I'm getting, I have someone at the door. Can you just wait for 2 minutes? I'll get back, please. Thank you. I'm so sorry, someone was at the door. Okay. Now, until the value of A is less than 5, what I'm saying to the computer is repeat the task that I will give you until the value is less than 5. Now, in while I give this condition. So after while there will always be a condition that follows. So the way to write is even if you write for, if you write while, it needs to followed by a condition. So in this case we say A is less than 5. Now I say it print hello, and I again tell it that after printing hello, I want A to change its value to A is equal to A plus 1. Now, what will happen is A initially had a value 1. Now, as it goes down the this Python print, as it goes down this Python code, A will become A plus 1. That is 1 plus 1, 2. Now its value will increase, right? So if I do this, if I run this code, what will happen is it printed hello 4 times. So while A was 1, it printed once. Then when it became 2, then 3, then 4. Once A became 5, equal to 5, it stopped this loop. So this condition now was not true anymore. So it stopped the loop. It kind of ignored the loop now. Okay. So in looping, it is very important to understand that whatever condition you set is should be a finite condition. Now, what if I wanted to maybe print it 1 lakh times, right? So it will also do that also. So if you see, it printed it 1 lakh times on the screen. But if I had to do it manually, it will take me maybe years for me to do that. Okay. Still, it was a finite loop. What happened was it finished at a value. If somehow this condition here is a condition which is always true. Now, what that means is if, for example, I write here B is equal to 2 and C is equal to 2. Now you know that B and C are equal. What if I add a condition that is universally true? I say B is equal to C. We know it is equal. Now there will be no stopping to it. It will become kind of infinite loop. It will not stop any soon. So once I play it, it can crash my Visual Studio or it can also hang my computer. But just for the sake, let's see what happens. So you can see it is infinitely working on it. It is just keeping on printing, 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 printing. So whenever we write code, to write a good code, we should always see that we are not creating an infinite loop. It will kind of uh, create a stuck. It will kind of create a bug in your program, which will never end, right? So infinite loops are very dangerous. So what actually we did here was we gave here a value which was always true. So we do not want a value that is always true. Now if I write a very simple code, maybe I say A, not even A. What if I say while and I write the condition outcome directly that is true, right? Now I say while true, print hello. So just these two line of codes also, because while this condition is universally true, I added the word true itself. It will keep on printing hello and it will never stop. So it is going on, going on, going on. Okay. So it will kind of crash things. So this repetition, what I mean by repetition is what we did before that. For example, A is equal to 10 and I say while A uh, while A is less than 10, print A, and I also want A is equal to A plus 1. Okay. So now this is this is more about terminology. What I'm going to talk about is terminology. Now, if you see A you took as 10, maybe A I take as 1. Now, when it will come here, it will come first across this line. So, while in the first case A is less than 10, right? So, while A is equal to 1, it is true. It will print 1. Now, it will give a value that is 1 plus 1, A will become 2. So, when a while loop starts again, it will start again from here. It is not the entire code that it will start. So in the while, it will be just the while, the sub part of while and the while that will start again. So then again, because it picks up the value of A as 2 now, it will again go here and it will say 2 is less than 10. Then it will again print it. So this repetition of printing, this in programming terminology, it is called as iterations. So it is called as iterations. Okay. So it is very important to learn this word because what will happen is when you go in more coding and deep coding, so sometimes there will be problems or the terminology used will be maybe your boss says iterate the process twice. So you need to understand what iterate means, iteration. So it is kind of repetition. It is a synonym of repetition. Okay. And the variable used for iteration in this, the variable that is used for iteration, because the loop is only possible when a is equal to a plus 1, this is keeping going on. So this variable that we are using for iteration, this is called as a iterator. Okay. So if you are going to maybe sit for a gate exam, there in the general reasoning in programming, there can be this which is the iterator. So there can be a code and a big code in where a while loop is used somewhere, and the variable used in the while will be the iterator. Okay. Now this was a case of plus. What if we try some another case? Just another example. For example, if a was 100 and we say that until uh, a becomes less than or equal to 1, right? Until a becomes less than or equal to 1. So print a and a is equal to a minus 1. So this time what will happen? It will pick a as 100. It will come here. So a is less than, so it will be false already here. A is greater than equal to 1. So this should be is equal to greater than equal to 1. So until a is equal to 1, that is the lowest of it. A is 100 right now, and it will 99 times go through this loop because the first thing that will become true is when a will become 1 because of constant minusing. So maybe I uh, run this. So if you see, it started from 100, it went down, 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 and up till 1, right? That is when the while loop stopped. Okay. Then there is this next question. Okay, let's do this question. So we have done this one. It is easy. Print numbers from 1 to 100. Print numbers from 100 to 1. So it was basically the 100 to 1, right? Now, if it says print the multiplication table for a number n. Okay. Now I want to print a multiplication table. Let me take the uh, number n as, maybe I want to print a table of 13. Okay. Now if you see, I'm printing a here. Now if I want to print a table of 13, what will happen is, here if you see, every time if I will change this value, that it starts printing like 1, 2, 3, a, right? If this is a plus 1, so it will start from 1 and then will go all down to, maybe we'll take the value as 10. Now, if I have a n13, I want to produce a table of 13. So what will it be? 1 into 13, 2 into 13, right? Similarly, it goes down, 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 and 10 into 13. So that is how I will produce a table. So it is easy. What I have to do is, simply I should say until uh, until a is less than or equal to 10, right? So not 10, 11. Or you can just simply say until a is less than 11, right? So print a into n. So that is the, you are writing a code for print the multiplication table of a number n. So basically you are writing this code that is for n. Now you can assume anything, you can input it from the user, right? So here if I put a plus 1, so 13 ones are 13, 26. So I have a table of 13 now, right? Then what is the next question? The next is print the elements of the following list using a loop. Now I have this list. I will create a random maybe. So I want to print the elements of the list using a loop. So in this we will kind of use indexing. If you remember, indexing was a sequence where it is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So we will use indexing with a while loop to get the values of the list. Now let us say a is equal to, I create a list. I will put some random numbers. Okay. Now I want all the values to come one by one printed in a. So if, for example, if you have a database of students, okay, you want to print them in a sheet. So you can just simply use this. Okay. While a is, sorry, not a this time. We will use another one that I will call as 0. Okay. While b is less than. while B is less than the length of the A. So why I'm using length? Because I don't want to count the number of elements in the list. So if you remember, uh, if the length is maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? 10. So indexing will be 1 less than it. So uh, indexing is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right? These are 10 elements. What if the list was 1 lakh digit long? Will you be counting it? No, na. I can't count 1 lakh digits like this, right? So instead, I will use the length of the list. So here the length is 10, right? So until I give a loop, until that B is 9, I want the values. Now what I will do is, while B is less than the length of A, print A, and now I will use indexing A, indexing B. Okay. And here I say that B, the value should increase by 1. Now you got it right. It is simple that A, and because the length is 10 and I want the values until the index 9, because in index it starts from 0. So B should, whenever B is, it is 0 now. At the moment it is 0. It will start from 0. And I want it to go up till 9. Okay. So this is 10 and it will go until 9. So at that moment, from this list, print A is equal to 0, then A is equal to 1, then A bracket 2, then A 3, right? So if I, if you see, it has mentioned me all the numbers from the list now. Okay. So if you want to add something outside the loop, you can say print the list as ended. So since I'm placing this outside the loop, I'm placing it outside the loop. If it was inside, it will print after every line. Now I'm placing it outside the loop. It will come, the list has ended. What if I pick this and I put it in the loop and I put it here? So the positioning of your code matters a lot. This is called as indentation. So indentation is the space that you provide when you are writing if or else condition or maybe while condition. So this space is called as indentation, and the overall manner in which you write the code, it is called as syntax. So the word syntax means the correct way of writing the code. So sometimes it says syntax error. If you get an error saying the syntax error, that means you have not written your code properly. There is some error. Now this time I have added the list has ended here. Now if you see, because it was inside the loop, after every point it kind of got repeated. Okay. So it is very important for you to see how you are writing your code. Now there is this search for a number x in the tuple using loop. Now what it means is, let us choose a tuple, and in tuple you give me a random value. For example, you say 49. So I want to look for the index of 49, right? And how will I do that using a loop? The important part is how to do that using a loop. It is very simple if you want to use the inbuilt function, that is dot index or something, right? But if you want to use it using loop. Now, for example, if I have this list itself, But why did I delete that part? Now inside while, right, I will write I will use a if loop. Why a if loop? For example, maybe I'm looking for a number that is 53. Okay. So I say if A bracket B is equal to 53, print the number was found at the index else. Now what I've done is, if you look carefully, it was a simple code and I put a if in the while and it grows a little complex. Now I have a list here. Instead of a list, maybe if I want I can make it a tuple also. So I have a tuple here. Okay. Now I say there is another variable that I defined as b is equal to 0. Now in this tuple, I want to look 53 is at what position. For example, you have 1 lakh values, right? You have 1 lakh different values, big numbers, and you want to find out at which position your certain number is for certain reason, right? When you look at this small, you can do it with your eyes, but right, if you have very big data, you can't do it with your simple eyes. There is uh, this is also a part of big data analysis, right? So if you have heard the data, if you have heard the word what is big data, it is handling big data. So if you someone is learning about big data, this will again repeat in big data, the loops. Now I said until the length of A, let us repeat B. So B will get repeated. Now at any point, uh, let me put this outside the loop. Okay. Because I want B plus 1 not to be a part of the if else. I am placing it in while loop. Now, what will happen? First, when B is 0, B is less than the length of this, that is 10. It is true, right? It will come down and it will put A bracket 0, that is 22. So 22 is not equal to 53. So as soon as this become false, this will get skipped and it will print A bracket B. Okay. Then after this, it will go back to B is equal to B plus 1. That is, it will become 1. So once it becomes 1, this will again follow. And this will keep on going until B becomes whatever the index value is here. So at that moment, this thing will become true and it will print this instead of this, and then we'll again jump to here. Okay. So here I have added a if else in a while loop. Now let us see. I wanted to see the position of 53, the index position of 53. So the number is found at index 7, right? Simple as that. So just you can make it more and more complex, writing the basic logic and then adding the uh, things inside. So if you understand while if else properly, then only you will be able to write the logic of the code. So this reasoning how to write the code, this is called as logic. Okay. So to be a master of Python, AI and ML, you need to improve logics. And logics will only improve just by one thing, writing more and more and more and more code. Okay. Now the next thing that comes is we have done all the questions here. Okay. Then we talk about something that is called as break, not break it. First we will, okay, we will talk about break and continue. So these are reserved keywords. If you remember, I told you about some keywords. So break and continue are some inbuilt keywords. They are not functions, they are reserved keywords. So what a break does is, so if you are using a while loop. Now, if you remember from the, what if I say A is equal to 1 and while A is less than 10, print print A. Okay. A is equal to A plus 1. The very basic of uh, the very basic loop. Okay. A is equal to 1 while A is less than 10, print A is equal to A plus 1. So it will print A 9 times. Now, what if I did is I put a if statement here. If A is equal to, if I say if A is equal to 5, and I use the keyword that is, so it was supposed to go from A1 to A9. Now, if I say if the value of A becomes 9, what I want the computer to do is I want to introduce the word here that is break. So sometimes maybe you are working with something that you don't want your code to work after a certain code. For example, the if if it was not a less than 10, it was something else conditions that maybe my even numbers are coming 1, 2, 4, sorry 2, 4, 6, 8. right? So if I say something like if an odd number appears, break. I just want the even numbers. So if an odd number appears, break. So what happens is, just to understand, now in this case, though it is was supposed to go from 1 to 9, but because at a certain condition, now you see, uh, it is outside the while loop to put it in else. Okay. There is some error. Right. Sorry. So if you see, the value is not growing more than 5. Okay. What happened is it became 1. So it went the loop complete. Okay. Once it became 5, once it became, the value became 5, it came here and this condition became true. And there was this keyword break. So what break does is it stops the loop completely. So it broke all the while that was going on. So otherwise, if there was no if a is equal to 5 and break, if I just uh, if I remove this part, it will just simply as normally it will go from 1 to 9. Now, just like break, there is something called as continue. What happens in continue is it does the same thing as break, but it does only for that particular one loop only. It will not break the loop, but it will just stop the loop for that one condition. So if you see in break, I was stopped at 5. I did not proceed further. But if I choose continue instead of break, this should continue then. Why is it not giving a value? Maybe let us try with some other code. Maybe if I say I is equal to 0, while I is less than equal to 5. We buy this one. So I have an error with explaining continue for a moment. I will explain this again in next class, continue word. But for now, we will move on to for loops. Okay. So just uh, we were able to understand what break is. Maybe the use case of continue that I have is not working for me right now. I will explain continue what is it in next class. We will do now for loops. So we did while loops. Now how for works is for is a repetition where we say, for example, if I have a list, for example, I create a list where I have some random values, right? Now, there is this loop where you say for, you write for, and then you define a new variable. Just like A, you define a new variable here after for. So what if I say for B? Okay. For B in A. What it means is maybe I call the A as list. Okay. So for I can name it anything for X or for I in list. Okay. So what it means is I can be any element in this list. From first to the last, every element. What for loop does is it jumps from one element to another. It navigates. So whenever you are using for, it will start from the first and go till the end. You're kind of creating something, a chain reaction, where it will start from the first element and it will go till the end. Now, if I want to say for I in the list, print I. Okay. So what this will do is when the loop started for I in the list, first I is 11. It printed 11. Then it went back again. Then I is equal to I plus 1. It becomes naturally that is the next value. So similarly, it goes on to until 22. Now, what if I want to say for I, print I into 2, right? So now I have every value, I have got it multiplied by 2. So this is how a for loop works. So in for loop, you are going through every element of the, it can be a list, it can be a dictionary, it can be a tuple, right? Now, until now, if any one of you has a doubt, please just tell me or you can write all okay. Does anyone has a doubt? All good? Okay. So this was uh, all about for and while loops. Maybe if you want to do some examples, like what I can say is for uh, you can put if inside for I in the list. Maybe if just like here, maybe if I add some another numbers 54, 75, 87, 112, right? If I is divisible by 11 and it leaves a modulo value that is 0, that means it is divisible by 11, right? So if I is divisible by 11, print a number is a multiple of 11, else print the number of 11. So if you see, I have used if and else in this for loop. Now, for every each value, it will bring it here, and then inside of this for loop, this will go to this. For example, if you try it now, so maybe I also print the number with it. So the number is a multiple of 11. The number is a multiple. Similarly, at 54, it says. So you can do many things. Maybe if you want to try slicing inside of it, okay. Um, you can use for and while interchangeably. Maybe I want to say, let us make it while. Maybe let me say while. Um, while I is a modulo of 11. Print 11, right? Uh, Now what will happen is, in this case, because it will start line by line. If you see 11, 55, 44, 77, only these four are initially a multiple of 11. But it will break the loop here because I is no more a value that is equal to, that is not no more a multiple. So it will give you the first four values. The values are this. uh, give an infinite loop while I it is a multiple of 11. So what happened here is, if you understand how coding works is, it is taking the first value again and again and again. So I'm not switching. If you see here, I'm not. If you remember, in I is equal to I plus 1, I have to add the values also. So we'll have to make it be here to E plus 1. Let's see if this works this time. Yes, it works this time. So wherever it was a multiple of 11, it gave the value. So if you remember how we started with while, we always have to add I plus 1 or something that makes the iteration going on. Whereas for the iteration goes on inside the list or the tuple. Okay. So these are two very basic and important things. So, okay, I hope you practice Python at home, and tomorrow we will go a little ahead. We will also discuss continue again. That what is continue, right? And just let me make you clear, if you don't practice Python, whatever you will learn in AI and ML, you will just remember in your mind, but it will all be of no use. You need to practice it a lot so that you are able to write the code by yourself. So you are able to understand the code by yourself. Just practice. If you remember, I told you in the last class, there is this website that is called as that is called as the W3 schools. So just look for Python here and click any one, and here they have the try it for yourself. So here they have the code editor. So this code editor is very useful. If you don't have Visual Studio in your laptop or something, you want to do it online, you can just put it everything here, print A plus B. You can do all the coding here in this Python editor. And it is very good because in Visual Code you are getting help that this is wrong, that you have written wrong. Here, if you have your code wrong, then you will get to know more, okay, that I'm writing the code wrong. Then you will check in Visual Code why it was wrong. So if you try to write it without help, that will be more advantageous for you to learn Python. Okay. Okay, then if you come up with any doubt, just let me know through WhatsApp, and otherwise we'll see each other tomorrow. Okay, take care then. Bye bye.